Welcome back to 365 Unlimited. We are back with another episode here. No guest today. It's just me and Gannon. We're going to be talking some football. We didn't have enough time before the NFL season started in September to sit down and actually do an NFL preview like we had the last 2 years. So to be able to sit down and talk about it now, a little, not mid-season, but early season, and get a grasp for what's going on, possible trades, teams that are struggling, teams that are playing well, exceeding expectations. We want to dive into all that, drop some storylines, get some feedback, hear your guys' thoughts on what you think about the NFL season thus far. But before we do that, hit that subscribe button for us. Continue to like all of our videos, support us. We appreciate all that. It goes a long way in helping us stay motivated to keep working for a better tomorrow within the sports world. Check out our two sponsors, Driftless Quality Wear and Bocker Auto Group. Give them some support. They support us, so we appreciate them very much. All right, let's dive right into this one. We'll get going, rapid fire, just back and forth our thoughts. I know before we started hitting record on this show,
we're already 5 minutes in.
We're already talking ball. I sat there, said again, I said, dude, why are we not recording this? We could just record this. So we just got moving right away. But all right, Gannon, let's start it off. Let's just talk about the Bucs offense. Expectations going into the season, Tom Brady unretires, comes back, high hopes back in Tampa, but it looks bad. What's going on with Tampa?
I mean, my first reaction being a Packers fan is there's some similarities with the offenses, I think, because there's a lot of injuries, even more so on the Tampa Bay side with high marquee guys that Tom, I think, at this stage of career has to have in there 80 to 90% of the season because he just has to be that efficiency. He's not at a point, I think, even mentally or physically wanting to kind of work somewhat with some of these younger guys. He does, and, it's part of his job, but he's also a 45-year-old grown man. I don't know how much he wants to work with guys that have no experience in the NFL or very little with high-end quarterbacks. So I think that's playing into some of the issues right now. But it's also Tom Brady, and a lot of these guys are going to get healthy, and he still has some weapons. And Leonard Fournette's been running the hell out of the ball all year for Tampa. So it's another weird dynamic. It really is, because I think the consistency, it shows some of these quarterbacks' age, I think. Same with Rodgers and Brady here, because it's tough. It's especially when you start getting, how thin the Packers wide receiving core is, and then as soon as the Bucs wide receiving crew gets thin, they wasted, I think, a lot of money on Russell Gage that could have been spent in another direction. Also, Tampa Bay, I just don't. He's going to have this nucleus for it to work, because it has worked before, but there hasn't been. There was a Gronk there. There was somebody always there. Mike Evans hasn't even been there for every single game, who's a red zone target for him. Tom Brady's got to have some guys there, and there hasn't been a mix of anybody consistently for him catching the ball, so to speak, at all this year. And I think it's showing. And it's also showing the shift in some of the NFL, how some of the schemes and the quarterbacks who are having success and who aren't, I think, anymore are showing a little bit. So those are kind of some of my thoughts. It's showing the age, and it's also, just having the same players around there, some of the same players, and they haven't at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think immediately when you look at it, the key point sticks out. Like, it is the age. And the reason I say that is because obviously everyone has that opinion, like Tom Brady's older, and it's only a matter of time before he kind of falls off. But here's my thing with the offense is I think that there's some coaching issues there too this year. I mean, you got to think about Bruce Arians handing the keys over. He handed the keys over so he could take a front office role. Sorry, got my words twisted. He took over in the front office, so now you got a new head coach in there, a guy who's been in the system.
Yeah, but Byron's still running the offensive side.
Byron's running the offense. I agree.
Yeah,
having Bowles as a head coach. I mean, Arians, Andy Reid, them type of guys are your gurus down there that can help you and help handle situations. Whereas he's up in the booth, and he's not going to be able to do certain things. So I think there is some schematic issues there with the Bucs. Because, I mean, you think about it, there's no chemistry issue there. There can't be a chemistry issue there. The team that they've had has stayed built together outside of losing Gronk. I mean, you got Fournette back. He's been there. You got Mike Evans. He's been there. I mean, the only other
other than the O-line. The O-line's inexperienced at a couple spots.
Well, and the O-line has been a struggle in Tampa for a couple of years, honestly. I mean, outside of the injuries, they're injury plagued this year, offensively. Yeah. I mean, I'm almost positive they lost worse for the season, didn't they?
No, it's not the whole season.
Okay. So having the offensive lineman out regardless, I mean, I've seen in Dallas what it can do to your team.
But team shift.
I think my opinion with Tampa is I don't think they're going to be able to get this thing turned around completely. And I think people are going to be shocked because you look at, and I say this every year, so I'm going to laugh at myself when I go back and look at this episode. Tom Brady's in the Super Bowl. I'll go ahead and get that out the way. But I don't think schematically this year and what Tom's doing. I I mean I could see them making the playoffs. I just don't see a run this year. I mean I think they can maybe turn it around a little bit enough to win some football games here. They got the talent. It's on paper. It's there. If Julio can stay healthy, Godwin can stay healthy. That receiving core is nasty, nasty. So yeah,
Just you're having Julio or Godwin trying to stay healthy is
it's
just it's
tough.
brutal at this
It's
point.
tough. I mean, it's terrible because you think about it; those are two ultra talented guys at the receiver position.
When and Julio's getting a little older, it's done
Yeah,
a little bit more, but Godwin's just been tapping into it, and that's the annoying thing. He could be a top 5 guy in the league, hands down, if he's on the field.
I mean, he damn near was before you brought in Antonio Brown last year with the mix
Yeah.
and the injury, and then even before Tom Brady came to Tampa,
Yeah.
Godwin was looking nasty with Tampa with Jameis. So I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens with Tampa, but let's fluctuate and move on into Green Bay now that we're talking offense, we're talking systematic and talking Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, the two older guys in the league. Gannon already kind of mentioned them, but I think with Rodgers, they're going to get it figured out. It's a matter of time. And
Yeah.
I look for them to be buyers at the trade deadline. We were talking about this before we hopped on. I think Chase Claypool is going to Green Bay. And damn it, I don't understand why Green Bay. I understand drafting the rookies and bringing in Watson and Dobbs, and I'm
Yeah,
high.
all you got to do is make a move or two, and it evens itself out.
Yeah, I go back to the offseason and I think about getting better in the offseason. I mean, it already frustrates me because Dallas don't make moves. But with Green Bay, I'm sitting there looking at. Now imagine you make a move instead of bringing in Sammy Watkins. Let's keep it real here. Sammy Watkins was a very talented receiver, injury plagued type of guy, and is at the back end of his career now. No hate on Sammy. Dude was incredibly talented, but to bring in a guy like Sammy Watkins, I mean, it was never going to work to a level that you wanted Aaron Rodgers to get to. It can work, but it ain't going to work the way you want Rodgers to be at. And I think a Claypool type of move should have happened before they even started the season because now you're weeks in and you're struggling already. But bringing in a guy like Claypool, you think about it, not a
Yeah.
great receiver, but a good receiver, a guy that's continuously growing, going to get better. And like I've always said, Rodgers is going to elevate his guys. What are you thinking?
No, there's a couple key things. What makes the non-moves on the offensive side of the ball in the offseason even more hurtful, so to speak, is, a lot of that money that we got back to free agency or that we got in, when we traded Devontae opened up a lot of cap space. And, a lot of those defensive guys that we have signed, they're not producing what they were. Rasul Douglas is not producing at cornerback. Devondre Campbell's missing open field tackles, and he was one of the best tacklers in the NFL last year. I mean, he was all pro middle linebacker, and you give him money, which at the time I applauded, but now you're looking back, and some of these guys have walked, and maybe you should have thrown some of this money in different directions, or other even defensive players. But some of it comes along to the schematics. So there's two sides of this schematically, I think, for the defense and the offense. But I'll hit your point with the offense. The thing with Rodgers that you had to make this move before, because with Christian Watkins, Watson, and Randall Cobb, really banged up, and I don't know what they're going to look like for the rest of the year, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
Those are two guys you're already counting on, so the injuries are going to happen throughout an NFL season. What were they thinking in August during training camp when you look at this wide receiving core, which could have got it done if everybody stayed healthy and produced, but it was a big what if and maybe.
But
And now some of these guys,
you're
yeah,
relying
that's what I'm
on
saying. You're
vets
relying on
and
these
rookies.
guys.
Yeah.
So now you drop a couple of these guys, his security blanket and Cop. Your hands are tied right now when you're paying this money to Rodgers. You're pretty much committed to winning and going to the Super Bowl. You got to make a move here because there's no reason. There's just I don't. But some of the key issues that are going to keep showing its ugly head, which the Packers have done in a lot of games over the last 3-4 years, have played well in one half and completely shut it down in the second half. They just usually score enough points in a half to outbeat a team in a whole game.
Yeah.
It's somewhat of the play calling. I don't know the riffraff, so to speak, specifically, but it's Rodgers because all the plays are coming through him, and he's able to call out or check out of anything at the line of scrimmage right away. So before everybody else involved in the offensive staff can do whatever they want and game plan, but Rodgers is still going to switch a lot of those for better or for worse. Most of the time it works out because it's Aaron Rodgers, but now when he's not having that reliancy with some of the wideouts, And the whole other thing is the Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon situation. That it blows my mind how they use those two. It's a third down screen pass, and Aaron Jones is on the sidelines, but Dillon's getting the ball on an 8-yard thing. And
I got a similar.
I understand when you have Rodgers, you're going to be a throwing offense. Even though I want him to be a run split team, that's not going to happen. Rodgers is going to throw the ball. But when they get the ball, Jones and Dillon specifically, make them do something. And these guys are just – Jones is top 3 in the league in yards per carry, but he's not – I think he's like top 30 in touches or whatever. Like, that just can't happen. Like, it's just astronomical to me in the situations when you're throwing some go routes or some deep routes on first down, and then you're sitting in second down and long when you could have picked up 4 or 5 yards at the very minimum on first down with either handing the ball off to Dillon or some check downs to Jones. Jones should be lined up almost 80-90% of the game, in my opinion, in the offense, even if it's not in the backfield as a slot guy, especially with the thinned out or with the wide receiving crew now.
Let me ask you this. How much do you think of it? Like, this is just man to man. This is how we talk when we're talking with Packers. Yeah. How much do you think of it is Rodgers checking out of LaFleur's plays, or how much do you think of it is LaFleur's plays?
I know that's what I've talked about to a couple other guys that are big Packers people, and Schwelly, who we had on the podcast a while back. I can't determine because I don't know what plays, what are being changed, but you can see some of the frustration on LaFleur. I don't know if it's a direct correlation, but in my opinion, this is what I think. I haven't seen anything or read anything. Just from my speculation, watching a lot of Packers games, I think some of that stuff, LaFleur's got his hands tied. Yeah, I think LaFleur could drop the play calling and get out of there and just game manage a little bit better because he has had some questionable game management decisions over the past couple of years, which is distractions, which I get. He's a young guy. He's fired up. But it's also like if he switches out the play calling, is anything going to really, truly change with Rodgers in there? It's still some of the same tendencies, even with going back to Mike McCarthy days of the in and out of the offense. It's not it is a knock on Rodgers, but I love it. But
it's not new.
It's not new. Yeah, it's on full display, and it's not always him. Also, there's a lot of O-line issues. Elton Jenkins should not be playing right tackle. He is an All-Pro guard. That's where he made his money. But he's going to get paid as a tackle this year, and I hope they let him walk and don't pay him because it just doesn't make sense. I mean, he's getting pancaked and beat. I mean, Rodgers was screwed this last week against the Jets in the backfield. He couldn't have done anything different. The offense couldn't have done anything different. The O-line lost in the game in the first half, in my opinion. They were just – but one more thing then we can move on from this. The defense. They played 2 safeties high the entire game. That's how Joe Barry does his defensive scheme. Savage is one of the best tackling DBs, especially in the secondary, I think, in the league. He's Devondre Campbell. That's another reason why he's struggling. He's the only backer then in the middle of the field on anything in the intermediate routes. There's 2 safeties deep. Yeah, it can help you give up some deep balls, but you're going to give up a lot of yards, especially so now you're making all these players go one-on-one and have to rely on them every single time. It's not going to work. You're going to get worn out when Campbell had all these tackles last year. There's no help. So then they get gashed on the run because if the D-line's not getting pressure, that's the only thing that's working for the Packers right now is their defensive line pressure with Gary and Clark and Preston Smith. Campbell's out to dry right now, and I think it's half of it still. It's a happy medium with the coaches, but he doesn't switch out of the 2 safety high look hardly ever, like the entire game. Safeties have to come down 15, 20 yards and make a play, which they can, but it's not consistently building up for a good, successful defense over an entire game and season. So that's kind of what I got on the Packers.
No, and I think with that defense, I mean, that is a major struggle. Considering if your defensive line is there and it's prevalent within,
there's pressure. There's been pressure.
If there's pressure, I mean, you gotta have your second level and third level guys be performing, making tackles. Not only that, but just helping your front line. I mean, it's very important, and I think we've seen that with a lot of defenses this year. I mean, you've seen some crazy defensive lines this year. I mean. Shoot, before the season started, we got Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa lined up next to each other. I mean, you've seen guys like it's been, and then there's guys like Matt Judon. I mean, sack after sack. Max Crosby, sack after sack. Right this year, Parsons starting off sack after sack. Like D linemen, whatever you want to call them. I mean, because nowadays it could be an outside linebacker, whatever you want to call them. Teams are getting sacks this year. I don't know if it's because
it's just what you're doing on the flip side of that when you're not sacking the quarterback. Yeah, and that's what some of these defenses can't figure out at all.
Yeah.
At all. Because some of these teams are giving up these sacks and they're still throwing up 30 points a game. They get through some O-line issues. But it's also how the offensive schematics have changed over the course of football in the
It
last 4 to
is.
5 years, I think, too.
It is.
It's 100% that.
Yeah, I mean, so now we've touched on Bucs offense, Packers offense, two quarterbacks, older guys,
Yeah.
vet status that are the best ever to do it. So let's move on from that and let's talk about my Cowboys for a little bit. You know, Gannon got into his Packers stuff. I wanna get loose and talk about these Cowboys
Yeah,
because
you want me to say a few quick things? I'll pose you a question because
give
I'm
it,
thinking through 'em.
give
Then
it.
I'll let you get your long talk. So I'm hyped for Dak to come back personally because he's my quarterback in 2 out of my 3 fantasy leagues. So it is great to not have to shuffle Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins, all the free agent quarterback wire in fantasy. But my biggest thing on the offense, and I hope it kind of plans out how I'm talking because I don't. The problem is they're going to lose the run game. They're going to give up some of this run game,
See,
and
that's
that's the issue that's going to happen with Dak coming back. And again, it's a happy medium. Me, I want 40 tosses a game because I want the fantasy points. But Zeke and Pollard haven't, especially lately. Zeke has been coming on a little bit and has been doing better in the run game. So and it's gotten them to where they're at with the record wise, and it's also helped Cooper Rush in some of those aspects. But they can't fully neglect this now coming with Dak coming back, and it's also
you can't.
you got to do it to watch some of Dak's hand. He's cleared in 100%, but there's no reason why he should be throwing 40 to 45 times the first week back. Everybody's going to want to see it. I want to see it, but if you're being real and being honest with yourself, that just can't happen. The defense has been playing well, and I think, to talk about that, you'll dive into that, but I'm really interested to see how that offense clicks with the faster pace, with Dak Prescott, with some of these young guys in there, how CD keeps going, how Gallup gets going, because they got their guy back. But it's going to be, what are they going to, because they're still going to have to run the ball. But how much will they do that? And the game will dictate it also, but it'll be interesting to see how they handle Dak in the run game.
Yeah, you proved the greatest point you possibly could. I mean, in that sense, because a real football person, a real person with knowledge, understands that. People that are saying keep Cooper Rush and he's winning football games. I don't think people understand the difference in what Dallas did when Cooper Rush.
He maximized all he had. He maximized it, and he's done.
And I'm gonna give Cooper Rush all the damn credit in the world. The dude came out and not only helped us win football games, he came in and did everything and more. But he's a backup quarterback. Now, what I want to say is, to your point, yes, people don't understand when Cooper Rush came in and Dak went down after week 1, our offense drastically changed. I don't know if what half of these football fans on the Cowboys fan base were watching the over the course of the last couple weeks when we're winning games, but if you didn't realize how much more balanced we were and how much simpler the offense was, not even schematically, but just the way things were ran, conservative versus being aggressive, letting the drive develop for itself. That's what we did with Rush. The run game was there. The defense and the run game were winning us football games. They allowed us to beat a hot Giants team. I don't know if they're real yet, but they allowed us to beat a hot Giants team. We beat the Rams. We beat the Bengals. Those are 2 games right there, Rams and Bengals, that everyone circled us, crossed us out, including myself, as soon as Rush came in. I crossed those off. Granted, those are 2 teams that are struggling right now. I marked those as L's. We won them. So, yes, Cooper Rush, all the credit in the world. Thank you for coming in and doing what you did. But Dak's back. QB1 is back. And just watch. I cannot wait to see what this fan base and how they react when Dak comes back and this offense starts to gel slowly but surely. And yes, damn it, I do not want to see Dak come out and throw 40 passes. Hell no. Run the football.
But will he? Yeah, there's a chance he might on Sunday.
That's going to come down to Kellen Moore. That's going to come down to Kellen Moore and how he wants to game plan this offense. Because, damn it, I do not want to see it. Zeke and Pollard, like you said, Zeke's been coming on a little bit. We know Zeke ain't what he used to be. Nowhere even close. But Zeke's a guy you can rely on when you're running a power scheme. And you can run the ball down people's throats. I'm going to give all the credit in the world to this offensive line, who's started to figure things out slowly but surely. I mean, losing Tyron Smith at the beginning of the season before it even started. We sat here and we said Dallas is screwed offensively. They lost Amari, they lost Tyron Smith, they lost Lyle Collins, they lost Cedric Wilson. We're going to be all right. We're going to be all right. And the reason I say that, Gallup's back. CD's there. He's been there. Can he make that wide receiver 1 jump? Dak is going to allow him to do that. People wrote that off the second Dak had 1 bad game, and I'll never understand it. I'll never grasp it. real football fans and people that are junkies with this sport understand that you don't write a freaking player off after one damn game that gets hurt and he's out for weeks and say that the backup quarterback's your starter. That's just a talking point. That's just clickbait. Don't fall for that. That's not.
It's also Cowboys fans just bringing it upon themselves a little bit because you guys are Cowboys fans.
It is, but
that's where half the backlash comes from. It's not even people heartily believing it. It's just wanting to piss Cowboys fans off. That's
see. Okay, I mean,
it worked because you got fired up about it.
Oh, I'm pissed. I'm pissed.
Yeah, I know.
I've been.
Oh yeah, I've heard this the whole year.
I've been pissed for weeks because I don't like.
I'm telling you, majority of it is all BS just because people don't want to see the Cowboys. They don't like the Cowboys. It's just.
But speaking of liking the Cowboys, now that I've touched on the offense, what I want to see before I go into the defense is I want to see Dallas continue to run the football, continue to stay balanced, continue to work in a conservative manner where you're not being ultra aggressive and running these trick plays with just get Pollard the ball, get Zeke the ball in the simplest form possible. Allow them to do the work. Allow your offensive line to do the work. Allow Dak to slow play things, sit in the pocket. I don't need 40 passes a game. I don't need 25 rushes by Zeke. Balance, stay balanced, run it slow, run it often. I like that, and I want to stick that way. But speaking about hating the Cowboys, winning football games, Dallas defense is here, man. Dallas defense is here. And I'm going to give them all the credit in the world. Not only just the players, but shout out to Dan freaking Quinn. Dan Quinn, man.
Yeah, love him before he's gone, man. Love him before he's gone. He ain't making it through another offseason.
That's a whole different talking point. Just the fact that I think he should stick around, not only because I like him.
Yeah, but I know, you think that, and it's a good fit, but yeah, he ain't saying.
More than likely, dude's going to get a head coaching job. I mean, it is what it is. It's how the NFL coaching tree cycle, whatever you want to call it, it's how it works. You succeed as a coordinator, you become a head coach. And then you fail, and you go back to coordinator. That's what happens. But shout out to Dan Quinn. Shout out to this defense. Man, they are putting things together. I love the combination of this rotation. I mean, there's guys on the Dallas defensive bench that could be getting in the rotation, but they're itching for playing time because this defense is playing so damn well. When was the last time Dallas had safeties? You got 3 of them now. Donovan Wilson, Malik Hooker, Jaron Kearse. Jaron Kearse was a blanket in coverage last year on tight ends. Granted, he's been a little hurt this year, but Donovan Wilson came in and blew up that Bengals game. Malik Hooker stayed healthy. He looks solid. Your DBs are probably your biggest question mark. Outside of Diggs, who obviously we know what Diggs can do. We're not getting into that. Outside of Diggs, Anthony Brown, I mean, I've never been a true big fan of him. I think he lacks man coverage skills, and I think it's iffy, and that's why you see.
It's definitely your weakness is the second cornerback spot.
It is, and then Jordan Lewis, he's hurt, he's banged up a little bit. I like Deron Bland, a rookie. He came in and played well when Jordan Lewis went down. I think that's your biggest issue with Dallas because your greatest strength right now is your defensive line, and we've talked about defensive lines and how they're going crazy this year. Parsons playing linebacker, I'd rather just have the man play DN, man. Just let Parsons rush. And I think it's not even just a beautiful sight to see, but when you really watch football and you see what Parsons is doing, that man hasn't even developed as a pass rusher yet. He's got no moves. He's just strictly rushing. Wait till that guy taps into his potential where he can sit and learn with DeMarcus Ware, who'll be teaching him in the offseason. Wait till he can learn the rips, the dips, the swimming, sliding, slide step. Wait till he can learn all that, and he can get to quarterbacks even faster. And that man is fast. DeMarcus Lawrence has played well. He's always been solid as hell in the run game. Linebackers are iffy again, I think, as well with Van Der Esch. He's played better than people expected. But Dan Quinn, man, the combination of stunts, the blitzes, I mean, it's tough for quarterbacks. And I think getting Dak back with this defense, I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm reminiscing, thinking about the Tony Romo and Des Bryant days. Man, you should have gave them that damn defense. Man, 2014, whew, give us that defense.
Yeah, close the yearbook. That's been 8 years ago.
All right, yeah, we'll close the yearbook.
It's gonna be 9 years.
We'll close the yearbook and we'll close the talk on the Cowboys.
Let's talk about the Jets and the Giants. I think that was another question I want to dive into. It's both been games that I've sat down and watched them both beat the Packers. But it's interesting because Robert Saleh and Brian Daboll, like you got to give them a round of applause because Ryan DeBoer only being his first year and Saleh in his second.
Saleh's
These
been
guys are
building it.
it's a culture shift these guys are building, and it's the way they talk, it's the way they interact. It's this new form of coaching where they're on that fine line of some of the old school stuff, but they're mixing in these relationships. You can just see the energy. Like Saleh, I don't know. Saleh was getting me fired up last week watching the Packers game, and he was coaching against my team. Just the way he was reacting and getting into his player. I mean, you see that firsthand on the field. I mean, DeBoer, after they won some of their games, just hugging people, just going crazy. It's not saying that other new coaches and other coaches that have worked or haven't worked don't care and don't give enough. These guys have just found the right mix and have developed it, I think. And I think that's the biggest thing with these guys. And DeBoer with Daniel Jones is just a really good mesh, in my opinion, because Daniel Jones can run the ball. I'm not saying it's a world-class combination and can go win you a division and go to the playoffs, but it's
Well, he was with
it's
Josh
really
Allen, and they're
no, that's what I'm
similar.
saying. That's
They're
what I was
similar.
getting to. It's a very similar playbook, especially with the running side, because Jones could beat you on the ground
Yeah,
and
he's
score
fast.
2 or 3 touchdowns. Yeah, and it's fun because I think DeBoer has really utilized that, especially with the coming weeks, because I know they killed the Packers again with the one middle linebacker there with nobody. Well, whatever. He just exploited it, and Daniel Jones was running all over us. And again, with Robert Saleh and the Jets front office has done their work on their picks in the last 3 to 4 years. Not even 3 or 4 years, last 2 years. I
Yeah.
mean, let's be honest. I can't even name all the guys. Sauce Gardner, I know Quentin Williams a couple years ago. They got Garrett Wilson, Zach Wilson. I mean, I'm missing a couple of the other guys on the defensive side of the ball, but they're getting their pieces in line. It's really weird because it's the New York Jets. We have not been alive where the New York Jets have had anything to talk about. Like, it's just other than Mark Sanchez with the butt fumble. Like, if we're being honest, it's been that long ago since the Jets and Rob Ryan and Rex Ryan and all those guys were somewhat relevant. So it's a cool dynamic because they're both in New York, and New York has not been a football buzz at all over the years, for the last few years. So I think it's cool to see, cool dynamic. And it's not just they're an okay football. These are good football teams that are learning as they're going and they're winning. Especially the Jets are really key because I saw last week when they're playing the Packers, their fourth quarter is the best overall team quarter they're having throughout the games each year. And that's with these young, inexperienced players in the fourth quarter of dogfights with other NFL teams. That's showing you that these guys are buying in and they're trusting the system and they're starting to see the results. I mean, I'm not saying these guys, they're going to go on and have a humongous season, but it wouldn't also surprise me because there's talent and there's belief, and now they're seeing it on the field translating into wins. And that's honestly the biggest thing, in my opinion. You can do all you want, like the Lions, and had the best offense, through this first couple of weeks and have all those close games, but you can't pull through and win the game. That's not getting you any farther in the cutthroat business like the NFL. But now the Jets and the Giants are both seeing wins and staying somewhat pretty high in their divisions and doing well. They're making some noise, and it's just cool to see as a sports fan because it's not the same thing. It's not the same guys. It's new players. And one more thing, probably Bryce goes. Saquon Barkley, it is awesome to see him back and healthy. Just watching him run across the field with his juice, his Saquon's gear that not very many other guys in the world can get to on a football field. It's just fun to see him back and healthy because it sucked not having him on the field the last couple of years after serious injuries. That's just a cool point, and it's helping the Giants huge.
I'm going to dive into the Giants in a minute and the Jets. But, sorry, I was sitting on my phone for a second, got an alert. Some breaking news that J.K. Dobbins is going to be undergoing surgery and will miss 4 to 6 weeks with the Ravens. That just happened, and that's crucial because, J.K.
That hurts the Ravens. Yeah.
It not only hurts the Ravens, but, man, I feel terrible for J.K. Man, that dude, he just got back from three different tears of surgery, and the hype was there. You wanted to see a guy like that, just a flashy running back, fits that offense to a T. Damn, it's tough to see a guy like that go down. But yeah, that's why I was sitting there staring at my phone. Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, with the Ravens are going to have to take over that backfield for a while. We'll see what'll happen. Then maybe they'll bring someone in, trade deadline, all that stuff. That'll be interesting. 4 to 6 weeks that's your season. The next couple weeks, that's your season. But Jets, Giants, I'll keep it short and sweet here. Two similar teams, two New York teams. I think in the sense you mentioned the coaching staff already. Both of them guys are having them teams come to play. And I like how you threw in there. It's the old style and the new style mixed together. I like that mesh that Saleh and DeBoer have. Having them two guys run those New York teams, like you said, culture's huge, man. Culture is huge, and you notice that in any realm of sport. If you've got a culture in that locker room, you've established
Yeah.
that, and guys want to go to war for you and with you any day of the week. You're going to start to see success, and it's only a matter of time before it shines through.
That's the thing. They're seeing it. That's that belief with the young guys, because young guys will take it and go, especially with nothing else in the NFL. That's their first experience. That's
Love
their
it.
first
Love
taste.
it. And they itch for that. I mean, you see a guy like Sauce Gardner, who's
Yeah.
an elite talent, an elite talent. He's already taken a rookie jump, man. I mean, you talk about second-year jumps. Sauce
You're
Gardner,
talking about Derek Stingley going before him in the draft? Ooh.
Sauce, man. Sauce
Ooh.
Gardner, that dude is tough. And not only that, but you're
Huge, bro. He's just got the size, bro. He's so long.
nasty. A lot of man covers, man. It's nice to see a Jet having the Jets have a DB again,
Like,
man.
it's just cool to see the Jets. Like, it's not.
It is.
I don't know.
It is. It really is. But it's like I'm saying, it's nice to see a DB in a Jets uniform back. Like I'm no comparison here yet. None of that. But I mean, you remember the Revis days with
Revis Island, baby.
Revis
That's
Island
101, though.
and the Jets uni, and now
That's
Sauce.
101.
The Jets love their swaggy corners, man. I mean, they're two different style players, and Sauce has got the drip, he's got the swag, and I love that about him. I think he's gonna have a bright future. But with the Giants, first off, before I get into the Giants, I think the Jets will keep it up. I really do.
Especially the division.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know what the rest of their schedule is necessarily, but they're going to win some more football games. They look solid, and I think it's only going to get better. With the Giants, I mean, I have not a biased opinion because I'm a Cowboys fan, but
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
okay, let's call it bias, whatever you want to call it. I watched the Giants play the Packers. I've seen the Giants play the Cowboys. They're a solid team. They are a solid football team, and I do really, really like the head coaching hire that they made, bringing in the ball like that. Being a guy that was with Josh Allen, and the comparison between Josh Allen and Daniel Jones. Not like Josh Allen's elite. Daniel Jones isn't elite, but you can start to see the flashes of what Daniel Jones can become. And he's already been in the league for years, but you can still see his potential can still rise. He's not peaked yet. Daniel Jones hasn't peaked. And there's been years where people just they tarnish Daniel Jones.
Oh, bad.
A year ago, you would have thought that they were going to look for a quarterback here soon. But what he's doing with him, there's a chance for growth there. And Saquon, so pleased to see that guy doing back doing what he's best at. And I mean, I think you look at it with the Giants. If you want to win football games, you should be buyers at the receiver position. Before the deadline, you got nobody at receiver. You got Richie James, Kadarius Toney, Galladay. Tony's hurt. Galladay is either going to get traded or cut at this point because they don't want him. They utilized him. He's not. That's not their guy, and it's bad because they're going to be paying him money, a lot of money. But I'm thinking, man. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to see Odell go back. I wouldn't be shocked. And I mean, you saw Saquon tweeted out the other day. He said, "Family reunion, bring OBJ back." He ain't going to be ready to play yet, but OBJ when he left New York, it's a whole different culture there. No, it's not. It's not what OBJ left. What he'd be coming back into is different. It's not the Tom Coughlin days. It's not the guys they had after. I can't even name the coaches necessarily that the Giants started to hire.
Shit, they don't even have Eli as quarterback.
There you go. It's different, man. It's different there. I would love to see OBJ back in the Giants uniform. I really would. But Giants, Jets, I mean, I think they're both teams that are on the rise. I don't really want to see the Giants succeed, being a Cowboys fan. But I'm enjoying seeing the Jets play. Seeing the Jets play good football is nice. So those two teams, good for them. Glad they're doing their thing. But another topic I want to dive into that happened this past week, last night, while we're sitting here recording this, Christian McCaffrey gets traded to the 49ers for a bag of chips. That's really what he thinks about it. I mean, but you say that, and then you think about the running back value and the injuries that have been there with McCaffrey and the money, and then even the money that he's bound to get still. It all equals out in reality. You were never going to get a first-round pick for McCaffrey. You weren't. You're not going to get a first. Like, the value's not there. Like, I'm sitting there looking at that trade, and you got Dallas talking about wanting to maybe trade Zeke or looking to trading Zeke. That's the value you got from McCaffrey. What are you getting for Zeke, a sixth? It's the running back value is not there. It's not there anymore, and with age, it only the trajectory continues to go down. But I love the move. I love the move that the 49ers made. I mean, you can tell they're all in this year
Yeah.
with the defense. I love Kyle Shanahan. I've been a huge fan of him. The way he calls plays, the way he handles his offense schematically. I'll be interested to see what he can do with a new toy like McCaffrey. You ain't going to just see McCaffrey play running back. You're going to
No.
see a variation, a McCaffrey that we haven't seen before. Let's just say that. You're going to see some interesting things with McCaffrey and Shanahan combination. So that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they utilize him and Debo, because Debo's gonna. It's honestly good for Debo and his longevity, because now he won't be getting,
Yeah.
even with their other running back situation, he's still gonna get his touches. It's just not good for him to stay on the field if he kept getting hit like that. So yeah, no, those two are a two-headed monster. I mean, it's it's good luck, pick your poison, but it's also a fine line to where you have Jimmy G being your quarterback. And I think that's still the end goal. We sat here and said this a lot. I know over the last couple of years when we've done playoff breakdowns, obviously they barely got it done and beat the Packers last year, but it was nothing Jimmy G did, nothing he's done in the playoffs. It's no knock on him. He can win football games, and it's kind of a game management style. But you still got to have some people that can take a ball and win you a game on a drive. And you can't just hand the ball off to McCaffrey or throw some screens. You got to be able to throw the ball down the field in some key situations. And Jimmy G can't do that for me. So, like, that kind of holds the ceiling on the 49ers. But, yeah, definitely with how um, the NFC West and all that else is playing out, then, yeah, 100% they can make some noise. But what? To what extent? We'll kind of see, because it's just you have Trey Lance healthy in that mix. Oh man,
Interesting.
Trey. Now imagine Trey Lance and McCaffrey. I mean, who you stopping on a read option?
Yeah, it'd be tough running ball wise. I mean,
Yeah.
the ball's now in Garoppolo's hands to see what he can do with it. It's
Oh no, I was just saying that. But yeah, no, it's gonna be bad because he's been there before and he's definitely had a good enough of failures, I think, to maybe right the ship and do it. Because like you said, they have a ton of pieces there to go win a Super Bowl. If I'm being honest, it's just
defensively if
they
they're
do.
healthy. My God.
Yeah, and again with Shanahan calling plays and some of this offensive stuff, it's just Jimmy G can't do it for you. That's just the fine line that they're going to run into. But Shanahan's going to keep drawing stuff up, so it'll be interesting to see. And again, will he stay on the field and can he, finish the season healthy? Because then it's kind of all or nothing for that trade, and it's kind of a waste of picks.
Yeah. All right, so I decided our last topic that I wanted to touch on was Broncos Chargers, but I'm thinking we wait on that one. I want to do we rock with a mid-season one, and let's see if the Broncos Chargers can get some things turned around. And if they don't, then we have an even deeper topic to dive into with Broncos Chargers, because right now, two teams.
Let's talk about the Broncos and just the offense real quick.
All right, you can
You
rock.
want to do that?
Yeah,
Yeah. It was a really interesting point. I think it was Aikman on one of the Monday night things. And, he went back and broke down a lot of the tape of a lot of the skill position guys, which are very talented for Denver. But it's how it's been constructed, and it's a lot of what these skill guys are doing that some of them aren't the best route runners. The biggest thing is the memo of all that. You can have a great skill position group and all that, but if they're not fitting your system and they're not doing specifically what they need to be doing in that position, you're not going to see any growth regardless of how talented you are. Because, like you said, a lot of these guys, like the knock on Judy coming out, he wasn't a great route runner, and he still hasn't been a great route runner in the NFL. The other thing is Nathaniel Hackett. Same thing. He's calling the plays. He looks lost on the sidelines. It goes back to our point way earlier about Rodgers. He was the offensive coordinator last year. It's great he was an offensive coordinator under Rodgers, but he was offensive coordinator under Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers. So he was really third on the totem pole for play calling. He didn't have to make play calls.
Mm-mm.
He didn't. What did he prove to you to go be a head coach and a play caller? And I think that's some of the stuff that has not been talked about. Like Packers, yeah, he's a great offensive mind. He can do all that, but it's one thing to go be a head coach and sit on the sidelines, make the calls with Russell Wilson, who's been an established NFL quarterback with good pieces in that offense. There's a lot of blame being put on Wilson. I know it's not always one-sided and it goes a two-way door, but Hack has got to figure some of it out, and I don't know if he can, because if not, this track record keeps up, he ain't going to make it till the end of the season being their coach. Like,
No.
how bad they looked. He's not. He's just going to get fired, and you're going to move on and get somebody else in there with Wilson and trust him. But that was the biggest thing. As soon as Hackett got fired, one more thing, that was just a question that I had in my head. Yeah, it's great that people are coming to the Packers and stealing some of the coordinators and doing all that. That means, we're doing something good, but it's also Aaron Rodgers runs a lot of that damn offense. Regardless of how you look at it, he's not making the play calls. So it's not
Yeah.
like he didn't know his stuff or wasn't doing anything, but that's way different to go jump into that with Russell Wilson.
Well, I agree right there when you mentioned the totem pole of like LaFleur, Rodgers, Hackett. Hackett not
Yeah.
being the guy. I mean, you think about it, you could argue 1 and 2. I mean, it's more 1A, 1B with
And he's
LaFleur.
in the booth. He was in the booth, and those two are on the field. I mean, that's even more of a third step down.
And like I said, it's 1A, 1B with Rodgers,
Yeah.
LaFleur calling plays and checking in and out of plays. It's 1A, 1B. I've said that 3 times now because that's what it is with Hackett.
Yeah.
I mean, Hackett is not bringing him in to be your head coach. And you're, I mean, you're thinking about it with the Broncos, man, a young defense, the weapons offensively. I really thought a guy like Jerry Jeudy would be Russ's Tyler Lockett. A guy like Cortland Sutton could be his DK. Younger versions, maybe not as big and strong, maybe not as flashy, but those are similar play style. Like DK, Cortland, the high point type of receivers, the deep threats. Jerry Jeudy, Lockett, home run balls, intermediate stuff. Having those two guys, I mean, they're similar to what Russ had in Seattle.
Yeah.
They're younger, fresh. They're studs. They're very talented guys. And then even with the run game, I mean, initially you had Javonte Williams. He's hurt now. Melvin Gordon's been I don't really know.
That's another dynamic. That's interesting there too.
Interesting. I mean, I think Melvin Gordon's going to get shipped out from Denver. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you start to see some of these older vets with Denver get traded to accumulate some picks to build on. Because now Russ is your future. You gave him the contract, so now you got to start to get some young pieces around him to build a little bit. And I mean, to see if Russ has anything left in the tank will be interesting to see. And that's a telling point that when we have this conversation 5-6 weeks from now, it'll be interesting to see how it shapes out. I mean, right now we're all sick of watching the Broncos on primetime because it's dud football. It's dud offense. I mean, there's not much else you can really say about it right now. It all looks bad.
Their defense has been balling too. That's the thing. Their defense.
Pat Surtain is a lockdown corner. Pat Surtain's already there. That dude's already there. Lockdown corner. I mean, what he did against Mike Williams with the Chargers.
That's the same thing, man. That might be the best cover guy in the league right now.
He's getting there, and that's not even really necessarily a hot take. Surtain is getting there.
I know. It's just like but it's just been so quick. Like it's just, dude. And
that's the problem. You're not talking about it as much or seeing it as much right now because of the dud football you're watching.
Yeah, and they're talking about the whole. Yeah, I'm trying to think what stat they gave at the end of the game the other night on Monday, and it was like it's like been the best defense ever for this record or whatever. Like the correlation being 2-4, but giving up these amount of average points a game. It's going down each week. Their average points giving up, and they're still getting beat. Like.
It's a sad story in Denver right now. Personally,
Bradley Chubb's a monster also.
I think the next time we have this conversation, we'll probably be talking about Hackett getting shipped out of there.
That would be my hot take right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like one or two things that could just be fixed like this and get it going. Or we'll be sitting here in a month or two and Russ will be rolling, which I could also see.
We will see. We've touched on a lot of good, solid points today. Talking Packers offense, Cowboys rush, Dak debate, defense, McCaffrey trade, a couple other trade hints in there as well with DJ Moore and guys like that, Claypool. I think you're going to see a flurry of moves, especially at the wide receiver position heading into the trade deadline when it comes about. DJ Moore, I think he belongs with the Ravens. Claypool, I think he belongs with the Packers. Elijah Moore, I think he belongs in Dallas. And that's a bias. I'll admit it. That's a biased comment there. But we've seen Dallas make the wide receiver trade. I think if you bring a guy like Elijah Moore in who hasn't been utilized, pair him with Gallup and CD, young Elijah Moore, cheap contract, cheaper. I like that. I like that a lot. And it's going to be interesting to see what shapes out the next couple of weeks with teams like the Broncos and Chargers, and we'll dive back into that when we get there. Even teams like the Jets, Giants, touching on them as well. We'll be able to touch on the Steelers and Bears more, look into their season as well. But, yeah, I think those are mid-season topics we want to dive into and see, like, some of the bad teams right now. Kind of give them a little bit before we pile on them and start talking about what's going to happen. But that's my ending thoughts, Gannon, if you have anything else you want to say.
Yeah, it's just I think there's going to be a lot of teams, like you said, making the moves and being buyers at this deadline because there's a lot of teams that have lost a lot of games but also won a lot of games. There's a lot of people on that 3-3 line one way or the other, even 2-4 teams. It's still early on. There's also been a lot of teams beating each other after winning the week before, or vice versa. So there's been a lot of beating up of teams. There's not a there are some teams separating themselves. It's the Bills and the Chiefs, obviously.
There's been
But
a
the
lot of
NFC,
bad football.
that's what I'm saying. And across the league, and it's the teams that have even played good and had good records have had some really bad weeks. So that's why I think there's a lot of teams compared to even other years in the next month are going to be believers, even though they really might not be overall contenders, which is going to make the free agents or the waiver wire and all that just fun to watch. I said waiver wire, but you get what I'm saying. With the fantasies going in the
fantasy
head,
football going through the head. Yeah. All right.
but no, I think that's going to be a good point because there's a lot of teams bundled up right now in the 3-3 range.
Yeah, well, we've talked about it the last couple of weeks. There's been a lot of poor football played on Sundays, and it's not even necessarily just bad teams. It's just new coaching staffs, trying to gain some chemistry with different players coming into new teams. Yeah, I mean, you're seeing bigger names start to switch teams, like McCaffrey going to the Niners. It's a chemistry thing too, and you got to get into a new whole culture, move to a whole new state. It's not going to just instantly be there for guys like Wilson or guys like that. It's not always going to be there. But yeah, those are teams that we want to dive into on this next episode we do later down the road with the NFL. But right now, this was just an initial episode to kind of dive into what we've seen so far. I mean, especially with our favorite teams, we got to talk about them as well. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned. The NFL's hot. It's rolling. We're getting to that point where mid-season will be here before you know it. I mean, we're 6-7 weeks into this, week 7. We're getting there, man. I mean, week 17 it doesn't seem like it's even close, but it'll be here before we know it, and then we'll be rocking with the playoffs. So if you're a football fan, keep enjoying the NFL season, keep enjoying college football. Take full advantage of that and live in the moment with this, because when it's gone, I know us football fans, we tend to get pissed off when it's not there. So hope you guys enjoyed this one. We will catch you next time.